this room a round of applause for all the great work they're doing. So that applause is for all of you because you've hung in here for a pretty long day. You've managed to give us lots of compliments about our campus. Thank you. We can't get it enough, so we really appreciate that. And hopefully you had a really wonderful tour and got a chance to see the Spark Point Center here at Skyline College. Now, it goes without saying that there's just such a wealth of information here, and the conversations that we've had a chance to start, if you're having the experience that I'm having, the reality is that you really wish you had kind of booked a few more days to stay here and finish out those conversations, because there's so many good pieces of information that you're starting on, so many good conversations, and things that we're learning, no matter where we are in the process of our Center for Working Families models at our campuses, whether we haven't started yet, just started, or have been, or one of the old timers of all of 3 or 4 years. The truth is we're learning a tremendous amount of information that's going to make our programs all the more better. Thank you. See, I knew what I was doing when I hired that man. Didn't I do good? So this session is, we're going to hear from the college presidents. Now, the information that you'll gather here will inform you in terms of what they are navigating as college presidents. But one of the reasons that this session is really important is we cannot stress the significance of having quote-unquote high-level support and involvement for being able to get your Center for Working Families launched or get your model off the ground, to get it going and to keep it going, to build in the sustainability that you need to build in, and to incorporate it in as part of the institution, to build out the partnerships. You know, it just can't be, enough can't be said about the significance of the role of the presidents and the vice presidents or the leadership of the college if you want to be successful in having a Center for Working Families. And so this type of discussion hopefully will give all of you information, new information, as well as some things that you probably knew, but give you insight into what they have to navigate. And also, I'm sure they may share things with you that they learned the hard way, and so you get a chance to learn it so it doesn't happen, you know, in your situation or at your college. I'm going to ask them some questions, but before I start with the questions, I'm just going to have the presidents remind us of their names and the colleges that they're from, so you know who's talking to you.
I have the wrong microphone. I'm Kathy Winograd. I am president of Central New Mexico Community College.
I'm Irene Porcarolo, president, Houston Community College, Southeast.
Rob Denson, president, Des Moines Area Community College.
Stephen Murray, Phillips Community College, and my fellow Arkansans have already suggested that it's okay for me to make myself look bad as long as I don't make the entire state look bad.
I was nervous, Stephen. I was nervous about what you might say.
You don't have to sit next to me. I'm Margaret Olaby. I'm president of Pulaski Technical College in Little Rock, Arkansas. Larry Curly Moe.
Because you got to understand, we're all from Arkansas, and we've not only all three from Arkansas, but we have bookended Margaret here with 2 Stevens. Of the 22 colleges in the state of Arkansas, we have 5 or 6 Stevens as the president. And by name only. I'm Stephen Schoonmaker. I'm president of College of the Ouachitas in Malvern, Arkansas.
That's a very shallow gene pool.
Well, fortunately, I'm not from Arkansas. Not sure I want to really publicize. I'm from Connecticut, which has made national news, and I'm David Levinson, the president of North Community College, and as I said before, at least as of this afternoon now, VP for Community Colleges for the Connecticut Board of Regents.
Hello, good afternoon. I actually just flew over Arkansas on my way from here. Thank you, Dr. Shaw, for hosting the event today. Marvin Martinez. I'm the president of LA Harbor College, and it's certainly my pleasure to be here. And thank you so much for hosting the event today. But literally, I'm serious. I just got here. I was out in Washington, D.C. The plane just landed, literally, at 2 o'clock. Went to the hotel, rushed everybody, told them, get my room right now, and so made it over here. So I'm excited about being here. So thank you for the invitation.
Well, we're glad you're here. All right, and I just want to come to the defense of my colleagues and friends in Arkansas. I think you guys need to represent. No, I think you guys need to represent that state as to be the great state that it is. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And I have a set of questions, and we have them aimed at some particular presidents, and then we'll give others on the dais an opportunity to answer those. And then if there's anybody in the audience that has any particular comments about that, then feel free to add to that. The first question I want to ask is, why is the Center for Working Families approach and the financial empowerment for students important to the vision of your institution? And how do you justify the value of it to your board and to the college community? Oh, I'm sorry. And that's Stephen Murray and Marvin Martinez are going to talk about that.
Well, I think it's become a key piece of our vision. We began several years ago, about 5 years ago now, trying to address the issues of class and race very directly. 3 of the 5 counties we serve are among the 100 poorest counties in the nation measured by family income. And we spent a year in a series of conversations around the issue of generational poverty and how we could move students out of that background. And we came to understand that students come to us with the resources of their family and their community. So in the case of many of our students, that means they come to us with very limited resources. And if we want them to succeed, we have to be willing to address those issues. The Center for Working Families has been a part of a larger student success initiative, but it's sort of provided the framework, it's provided the philosophical approach to address those issues that are non-academic. It is very much a part of our vision now. We have revised our mission statement to include a commitment to the success of every student, to include a commitment to engaging in the lives of our students and to engage in community. We've identified 3 core values. They are our values because our employees told us that these are our values: a commitment to student success, a belief in the power of education to transform individuals and communities, and a commitment to diversity. So it has very much become central to who we are and how we see the work that we do.
It's actually quite refreshing to have a conscious and deliberate and intentional attention to the issues of race and class, particularly as it relates to people's access in terms of upward mobility. I wonder, it also takes a little bit of courage to actually say some things out loud, because a lot of times, particularly around these types of issues, we're very silent on the issues of race and class. And so I wonder how you, Dr. Martinez, how you get your board to subscribe to such a vision and support the Center for Working Families model.
Sure. What I thought I would also do is just tell a little bit more about Harbor College. We're located in not too far from the Port of LA, in the city called Wilmington. Very poor community, about 95% or so Hispanic. A lot of gangs, very much an urban community. But in most of our communities, for the most part, are low-income communities. In regards to our board, I think that our board expects us to work with this program. They see this as a no-brainer. They see this as us trying to support, again, many of our students who are coming to us with all kinds of needs. The model, I really love the model because this is very much a workforce development model. It's a model that we use already. It meets very much our mission as a campus. So I think that our board, when we told them what we're doing, when we told them about the grant, a lot of them were saying, it's about time. You need to do this. This is something that should be part of your blueprint, and should be part of how you serve students in a college.
So, Rob, you wanted to mention something.
You know, there's not one service that we provide with the Centers for Working Families that each one of our students doesn't deserve. I mean, clearly, you know, at our college, about 70% of the students who come to us are going to do all right almost no matter what we do. But the 30% that are left, unless we do everything we can, we lose most of them. So the Center for Working Families has allowed us to address all these issues, but we need to always realize that more and more of our students need these same kind of services. You know, that said, you know, there's kind of a crass explanation too, is that the more students we can retain, the more who persist, and the more who complete, the better it is for our enrollment. So these students, if they're successful, we're successful. So it really is, it cuts both ways, and that's one way that as we talk to our boards, we say our investment in these students helps our completion rate, persistence rate, and all the things that we're measured on externally, as well as helping the students that move through the process.
Did any of you have boards or board members or even perhaps higher administration, if you happen to be in a multi-college district, who were not necessarily hostile to the idea, but they wondered if you weren't just kind of stretching the mission a little bit? Please.
Yes, for Houston Community College, when I say Parent Academy, and even in years past, because Parent Academy is dear to my heart, I would talk about Parent Academy, and then they would kind of look at me, what are you talking about? And working in previous positions, not present at the time, Parent Academy, working with parents was just not the ideal thing to be able to communicate, connect with parents. So as we progress as an organization, we realize that 70% of our students are in financial aid. Well, guess what? There's definitely a need for financial resources in our institution. Along the thoughts of that, the Kresge Foundation says we're going to offer or provide you with an award of $300,000 on Parent Academy. So here comes the chancellor saying, not only are we going to assign this particular assignment to one college, but it's going to 6 colleges. We have 75,000 students in our institution, and out of that 75,000 students, we are then saying that it's going to be divided out to 6 colleges. So the Southeast College has been a trailblazer in terms of engaging and getting involved with parent academies, but also looking at the family structure, the family unit, the financial structure that is so critical to be successful and to continue with student retention. So now we are moving gradually to the 6 colleges, and some presidents are on board, other presidents still are not on board, but as we continue to trailblaze, and we have 3 colleges here today. Last year we came in with 1 college, and now we have 3 colleges. That's 50% within 1 year to really make a commitment through our institution.
And one of do you want to add something, Dr. Martinez?
Yeah, I was going to say that we're part of a large also multi-college district. We're one of 9 colleges. What we're doing in LA is that since we're one of the first campus, we are the first campus that's developing this program. The way that we try to conduct business with the 9 college district is that we're going to first serve as that model, as that pilot program, and hopefully we can become the model that can be duplicated with the other 8 campuses. But in regards to, was there any caution that was presented by other senior level administrators? Probably the only caution that I could think of is, because most of us are facing days where we have no money and we have no resources. So I think that everyone just wants to know, well, how are you going to do this program? Which staff are you going to assign? The approach that we're taking is we're trying to see how we can take this program and infuse it with many of the other programs that we have on the campus, where we serve many low-income students or other type of students. So I think that as long as we can do that, we're able to show that this is a program that can be of benefit to students.
Okay.
See, for us in Norwalk, we were very fortunate. We actually were approached by philanthropists who came to us and wanted us to do the program. So first of all, what that meant, of course, that it was not using existing resources and that we were sought after. And again, Norwalk is in kind of an interesting place. Southern Fairfield County, probably one of the wealthiest counties in the nation, but a county that has extremes of wealth and poverty. But we were approached. Then it became something that everyone championed because, of course, it came under the general rubric of student success, which has become very much the mantra for community colleges. And we were just very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. So it's really, in that score, it's showed that this is a bona fide investment. And not only a bona fide investment, but also very important as a model for what you should do with the entire institution, not just with the students involved in the Center for Working Families or our Family Economic Security program, but becomes a model for all 7,000 students.
I think that David's comments actually, I want to build on those comments because you actually have heard quite a few words here that boards listen to. So one of the things you do is you speak the board's language, you understand what their values are, what their goals are, and you have to frame this in their language. So for an example, when you have a board that's interested in completion and student success and retention, then you don't discuss this necessarily as an anti-poverty strategy, you discuss it as a retention and success strategy. The impact will be anti-poverty as well, that is part of it. So you have to know your audience and have that conversation. And you may not be talking about it necessarily, you might be talking about it with your community-based partners as a anti-poverty strategy. You might be talking about it with the faculty as a college completion strategy. So you know your audience because it meets all of those different types of things. I want to go to the next question. How do you recommend, this question is for Margaret and Stephen Shoemaker. Shoemaker? Do I have that right, Stephen? Okay, thank you. How do you recommend advocates of the Center for Working Families model approach get buy-in from the administration and the faculty at their colleges?
I'm 2 months old, and so I'll give you my...
You're looking great.
Yeah, you dare. I know. Here's what, and what Regina just said, it's about putting it in the context that people relate to. And we're very blessed at my institution of having very good faculty and staff. And I think, you know, if you haven't seen this, take a peek at this handout. But the way we have been framing this with our faculty and our staff is that we are focused on student learning success at our institution. And the strategies within this program, as Rob said, are good for everybody. Good for everybody. And we want to make sure those options are available for everybody, but certainly our students who are in most need. So our value is we are going to, as I say, share the love. And we're going to provide professional development for all of our faculty and staff and our administrators on, if you have a student come to you and they are in need, where and what do we do with them? And our faculty is seeing that this program and a couple others that we have are reaping huge success for our students. And we have quantifiable data to show that. What we're also seeing is the soft data or the qualitative. And what we've seen, what I've seen in 2 months, is we have retention rates that are great. Board, faculty, staff love that. What we also see is what you saw at lunchtime today. We see students who are carrying themselves like they never have before. Never have before. And that means just as much as the quantifiable data. And when you have those students in front of faculty and staff who've not seen them before or know of the program, the buy-in is immediate. I'm old school and I'm a visual learner. And I believe that the more our faculty and staff can get involved, and the more that our students can get involved and show that this is a life-changing event, that people can become productive citizens, good parents, good workers, then it's just the right thing to do. So that's what we're doing. Regina, and it's working. Our faculty has bought in. We're going to start professional development. We're infusing it in our career success course for all of our students.
Margaret, that was great. Now, you got to understand that I have 5 times the experience that Margaret has, so if you paid attention, that means I have 10 months of experience to Margaret's too. But, I think many of the things you're hearing today should hopefully encourage you. But seeing that I've just become a president within the last year, and before that I was not, I often wrestled with this question about how do I get those who have positions above mine to buy into something that I think is a really good idea. And so now, it's a perfect question to ask me. So how do you recommend to get buy-in? The way you do it is really about language, and it is about using different language for different audiences. It's also about something that you may have heard of called the Golden Circle. The Golden Circle is a very simple concept. It starts with the outer circle of what we do. 100% of the people can tell you what they do. We know what we do. And then most of us can say how we do it. But it's actually really the exceptional that can actually explain why they do it. And to get the buy-in, you have to get to the why. So for faculty, why would I be interested in this, and how does that resonate with the why that I come to the campus every day? And for the folks in the business office who are trying to keep all the, keep the college solvent and the doors open, why is this important to the things you've heard about? Completion, progression. If you're in a state or on a campus that's dealing with performance-based funding, or you're just looking at you have to stretch your dollars every possible way. So why would we be doing something like this? And the data that you're getting from this convening is really important data to be able to take back and share. Because, when you can say, other colleges that have tried this are seeing 10%, 15% retention increases. I mean, those are not small numbers. Those are very significant and important numbers. And we want to use data not to drive decisions as much as we want to use them to inform decisions. And if you can use data that go to the why for the people that you're talking to, then you will be able to get that buy-in. And for those visual learners, I'm a visual learner too, get me in front of these students. We saw 2 students, I was ready to get my wallet out. Okay, how much do you need? Because that's why I'm here. That's what fuels my engine. And if I get to see that, I get to see the difference that it makes, then I'm much more willing to buy in and see how can I help.
I think this is an incredibly easy sell. Right now there are 600,000 open jobs in manufacturing in the country, and thousands of jobs that are not in manufacturing that are open. You hear about the skills gap. It's not a workforce gap, it's a skilled force gap. And anyone who cares about populations who have had tough times and or diverse or any other category, this is a time where we can work with them to focus on outcomes where there are jobs. And this process, Center for Working Families, helps them get to the process to get into jobs, which makes our employer partners extremely happy, and our boards, many of which are business persons, they understand how that works. So we are closing an incredibly important gap, And it may be one of the few times in our history where we've got an opportunity to help those who many of us came into this business to help.
Also, if I can add one thing, I think also, speaking of the importance of this, I mean, it's just the metaphor of coach. I mean, one of the things that really impresses me about the initiative is the use of that language. And I think that is really clairvoyant in the sense that the idea of a coach is where education should be headed totally, right? The idea when you look at pedagogy of what faculty and staff should be doing, it's really the model of a coach is where we need to go as a nation. And just like with respect to looking at job opportunities in manufacturing and other areas, I think the center has a discourse, a language that really can be used to be transformative of the entire institution and really does set the pace for where things are moving in the future.
So, you know, the interesting thing is that a couple of you have mentioned, particularly in these tight times, and despite the fact that we have, you know, these, you know, struggles in terms of fiscal struggles, et cetera, at the institutions, the interesting thing, at least from the perspective that we took here at Skyline College, is, you know, we were in the middle of some really bad budget cuts, and, you know, we did start to get rumblings from the college that says, why are we doing this new thing when we are cutting classes and we're cutting English sections and we're cutting math sections, and why are we doing this new thing? And my response, though I didn't plan it to be so sharp, my response was, I'm working on that. Coach and everything, soften me up a little bit.
There's a gesture that summarizes it.
But my response was that this is precisely the time that colleges have to respond with these types of models, that it makes a difference in the lives of people, and that it really kind of, as I said, it gives us a chance to reconceptualize the way we educate our community. And, you know, actually that was very well received at the college. Now, it also helped that we went out of our way to bring in external money to kind of get it going so nobody thought anything was being threatened right away. The other thing I want to add is that in order to get the kind of buy-in, we actually, you know, we traded on our relationships and our credibility with the faculty and staff. In other words, we came to them with existing good relationships, that we were honest brokers and that they knew that they could count on us and our leadership. And we listened to them. So really the issue around respect for their ideas and respect for their concerns, and not to be dismissive because, you know, by the way, you got a $300,000 grant that some woman is trying to give you, so they're, you know, you wish the naysayers would go away. We actually, you know, invited conversations so that we could pay attention to those concerns and the critiques, and then build that into our planning processes as well. And then the other thing is that we were very strategic. We went after the opinion shapers. So right now in our Center for Working, in our Spark Point Center, which is built on the model of the Center for Working Families, we have an English Language Institute. And that English Language Institute is run by Leanne Sipple Shaw, who is a faculty member here at the college. She also is the president of the Academic Senate here at the college. So we went toward faculty who were opinion shapers and people of influence in the institution early on to get them involved and engaged in this conversation so that it didn't all of a sudden spring up and they look over and see there's a new place over there and they go, where'd that come from? You know, what happened here? So targeting who you're involved in and who you're talking to is really, really important. And it's about really respecting the faculty and staff and giving them a chance to engage and to help you be successful in getting it started.
I want to say that, you know, in California, you know, we have a process which we call shared governance, which is actually guided by legislation, say AB 1725. And it actually provides a framework for us to work with many of our constituents on a campus. But just to let you know, at Harvard College with the LA District, we have 6 unions that are part of the college district. We have, of course, the Faculty Senate. We have a number of other constituents. So the process that exists actually provided a good framework for us to introduce this program to many of these constituencies so we can be as transparent as we could and be upfront as we could about a new program that's coming down the pipeline. Second thing that we did, I think, helped really well in terms of faculty buy-in, because I agree with you. Without faculty buy-in, there's no way these programs work, is we linked it with a program called Achieving the Dream program, which is we're one of the campuses here in California. And that's a program that's led by faculty. So by linking it with that program and in essence infusing it into that program, the faculty bought in naturally. So you're right. I think without the buy-in, but again, I think we just took advantage of the framework that we have already.
Yes, I'd like to go back to one of the sessions that we had earlier on the financial resources, financial coaching. And one of the models that was presented by the person that was actually at our table directing the initiative or the activity, it was about relationship. You know, because you have the client and then you have the relationship. And you mentioned earlier that the relationship, and we're just off the ground with our model at Houston Community College, but it's that relationship, and so you have the buy-in because then you have the faculty see us working closely. In our case, we have to work, we're doing dual credit, and the parents of the dual credit students. And it was to work closely with the principals, work closely with the faculty from our end, and also with the administration at the high school. So it's building those relationships and then having trust upon one another. And it's no longer just a dual credit program as it was before, which is take anything and anything goes. Now we want to put a plan together that says, now you go from here to here. Now you're talking about student retention because now you're going to do a plan that allows you to proceed with your educational degree plan and go on to college also. So the relationship was so critical to us. In demonstrating that. And today was brought out, and I said, oh, that's what we're doing. We're doing the relationship thing. So that's great.
Okay. The next question that I have is for Kathy Winograd here and Rob Denson, and then others that might want to pipe in. What actions are you taking to sustain and expand the Center for Working Families approach at your institutions, and how are you thinking about taking it to scale?
As all of you know, C&M has been involved in this for a while, so I am hesitating on how to answer this because I keep telling Ann Lynn, who you all know, that my vision is that C&M Connect not be a model, but that it just be what we do. And that taking it to scale is very significant to our college. And I'm going to go back and say what they all said. And that is that one of the things about leadership that is really interesting is that you learn a lot about your own values. And I think all of you, no matter what role you play in an organization, understand that when your values match what you do, there's this incredible alignment that makes you feel very good about your job. And I don't know one person that works in community colleges throughout the entire country that doesn't feel that. Because what we value is making sure that our students succeed. We value working with students who are very vulnerable. We value that we are able to work at institutions that are more diverse than any other higher education system in the country. And so taking it to scale for me means that we don't talk about having a Center for Working Family model, that what we do is based on what we learned from our Center for Working Family model. So right now, we are probably about 60% in creating a situation where all of our student services are in a C&M Connect model, where we actually view that the student should be receiving bundled services no matter who they are and no matter what it is they need, and whether that bundle is within the organization or within and without. My next vision for the college is that we view academic programs in the same way, and that our students actually are experiencing a totally different way of getting to where they are doing what they're going to do after they leave us. And that means that we don't say to them, would you like to be a welder? Or would you like to be a nurse? Would you like to be this? But we actually sit down and listen to what they have to say and what their needs are and where they would like to live and what is it that they are trying to accomplish, and that we then focus in on the student and create that situation, because isn't that what we're trying to do with the Center for Working Families? So I often talk about the fact that we change lives and build community. And if you are really talking about building community, you realize that a person with an associate degree is more likely to vote. They are more likely to not need public assistance. They are more likely to have children who are ready for school. And what we need to be able to say to our faculty is, we care about the same thing you care about. And you've heard that at this table. And what we want is to be able to create a Center for Working model that is blown up, and that when people think of C&M, they're thinking of a bundle model for everything we do.
Well, speak to that, and ask what you think are the tipping points for taking it to scale.
Yeah, we are already in sustainability mode. I mean, we've integrated the Center for Working Families model into the college. I mean, we've committed to put whatever funding we need to into it, but it's sustainable because we now have United Way and 21 community-based organizations working with us. We've got if you want to Google the Evelyn Davis Center for Working Families, that is our physical structure that is kind of the model, but we, at least in Iowa, for providing these kinds of services. The building was given to us by a number of wealthy individuals in town who raised the money to buy the building. We renovated it on behalf of the college. We provide maintenance, we provide utilities, but we've got 21 community-based organizations that come in and out of there that help us work with the clients that come in. So that helps stretch our staff services substantially. Marvin DeGeers, who's here, you'll see him in a YouTube video on the website. He's actually a contractor with United Way. He manages the Evelyn Davis Center. It's been very important for us. This is not a DMAC thing. It's not about our college. It's about the project and the initiative. And when I came to Des Moines Area Community College in 2004, we were a KC Making Connections neighborhood site. It's a 10-year project, but Casey comes in and really works with neighborhoods. And so I was able to make 2 trips to the Casey Foundation headquarters in Baltimore. And what they told me on the first trip, that they had a college president who'd been invited on trips like this, and all he said is, what's in it for the college? And that was a message to me that it's not about the college, it's what we accomplish. So in central Iowa, when we go into an initiative, it's never about us. We very seldom lead, but we push. I mean, our money's on the table, and we help hold others up. So sometimes my marketing department goes nuts because we're not getting the credit, but the project's being done, and everyone at the table knows who's really helping lift the entire project. So that's been very successful in getting the CBOs. We're a banner school. I mean, your school is probably either Datatel or Banner or maybe some other brand, but our major student information system is Banner. We've got a couple probably criminal-grade hackers that work for us. And so they have broken the code of Banner and created a software product we call SuccessNet. That's so that this was created for the Center for Working Families, but now it's integrated throughout our entire college. And in fact, I just wrote our data guy and asked him to go into SuccessNet and tell me how many times a counselor or advisor, when they saw a student this fall, made a note or comment. Because the big problem we have is that every time a student went in to see a counselor or advisor in the old days, it'd be like starting all over again, like going to a new doctor and having to repeat everything over and over. So now when a student walks in, it doesn't make any difference who they see on which campus. The information's there, the data's there, and not only that, the last contacts that student has had with a counselor advisor is recorded. And so 77% of our students have in the comments section, which is that's where I think we personalize education. So when somebody walks in, the counselor who they've never seen says, okay, here's what you were talking about last time. How did that work out? So it makes our students feel much better. But as Wendy Robinson, our Dean of Student Services, says, it also helps when a student makes a complaint that we didn't do anything or didn't do something. We've got good recorded evidence of what we actually did do. So that is something that we've taken to scale. We have 6 campuses and a number of centers, so that is now college-wide. And again, because of the partnerships that we've had. But the tipping point is, and as I start a lot of speeches, I say, a prison term is a terrible thing to waste. We had it, not me, not personally. Well, maybe it's too soon to tell. But we had a terrible workforce agency in Iowa called CTEC. It was a national scandal. The 3 executives are all now in prison. But it was the rhinoceros in the room. I mean, there wasn't air or oxygen in central Iowa for anyone except CTEC. So powerful, so vindictive. And nobody could take it down, so self-destruction was the only option, and they did. But the Annie Casey Foundation, and I'm hold them up. Without the Casey Foundation, we would not be where we are, because Casey staff on the ground in Des Moines counseled us, advised us, helped raise a lot of technical assistance from Casey that came in there, and they were with us and pushing us all the time. So we do have a good system. We're not as good as we want to be, but it is good, but it's because of what Casey did. So we're very excited.
Yeah, Kathy wants to speak to the tipping point, and then I'd like you to follow up.
I'm sorry. Tipping point first is when all of a sudden you start hearing all your students talking about the person who is in the seat, like we did at lunch today, like Ann Lynn Hall was on our campus. Second tipping point, when all of a sudden there is an opportunity to add jobs either on a grant or not, and many of your own staff are seeking to be part of that staff. For us at C&M Connect, I'm sure you've heard that. So when we started advertising jobs for C&M Connect and we had internal individuals willing to go on soft money jobs just so that they could work in that area, that was a tipping point. The third tipping point for us was when we were planning convocation and the theme became C&M Connect. This is a faculty staff planned event that the theme was C&M Connect because faculty wanted to know what it was they could do to help their students, and they saw C&M Connect as the answer. And the fourth tipping point is when your facilities team, also made of faculty and staff, decide that the location and place, as we've seen on this campus, is very important to make sure it makes a statement. So I would say those were the 4 tipping points for us.
Stephen?
I'd like to go back to the issue of scale and suggest that in some ways it's easier to achieve scale if you start at scale rather than start small and try to get to scale. So, we did some things related to that I think worked. We tied our financial literacy to develop the highest level developmental writing course and freshman English, because almost all of our students are going to take one or both of those 2 courses. We tied our student success course to developmental courses because close to 80% of our students have to take at least one course, one developmental course. So I think in a lot of ways it's easier if you simply start out at scale where you can. The other point that I wanted to make was that I appreciate what my colleague from New Mexico said when she said we don't talk much about Center for Working Families. That was my dirty little secret that I hope no one found out, and she confessed it. Because in terms of our conversation, we talk a great deal about student success, We essentially have 3 prongs: achieving the dream, and our Career Pathways program, which is a welfare to education to work initiative, and the Center for Working Families. And at the level I see it, it all looks like student success. Sometimes our Vice Chancellor for Instruction, Dr. King, will get frustrated with me because I describe something as career pathways when it's achieving the dream, or I attribute it to the Center for Working Family when it's actually career pathways, and it frustrates her to no end because I don't get my stories right. But the reality is that it's only till you get down to the budget director level that you begin to see that this is Center for Working Families. Essentially what we're doing with all of with the whole Student Success Initiative is trying to institutionalize the approach that we're using in Center for Working Families, so that all of our advising follows a coaching case manager approach, so that we're providing these services to as many of our students as we could. We used to give our students the Noel Levitt survey to identify the at-risk student, until we finally realized that all of our students are at risk. We stopped doing that, saved some money that we could redirect, and simply started doing business in that way. Last thing, the 5th tipping point, which I think suggests that we have made, that we've institutionalized this approach, and that is when the email conversation on our list, our college list, changes. I've had a couple of examples of that recently. A business instructor who sent an email to the list pointing out that we had had a significant increase in young African American male students, and suggesting that there were obstacles to their success, a need for transportation, a need for some sort of on-campus activity that would engage them, and suggested that, well, the question was, what are we going to do about it? It was the institution owning those obstacles, those challenges that students brought with them. Another example that I mentioned earlier on the ride over here, on one of our smaller campuses, we had a student who was an evening student, was in her last semester, had 2 small children. Her babysitter quit, and so there's the email to the list from a faculty member describing the situation, and then the next thing that you know, we had instructors who, in the short run, were willing to babysit their kid, her children. I was not willing to do that. I had a great deal of admiration for them, and helped her find a babysitter for the rest of the semester. So she was able to walk across the stage, shake my hand, be a college graduate. And our conversations have changed. Our conversations have changed to reflect that we own those issues, and we see a responsibility to help students address those issues.
Moving away from the idea that the deficiency of the deficit is within the student, but indeed it might be within the way in which we have our programs and services designed and constructed to address those issues. Eileen, you wanted to make a comment, and then I'll go to the last question.
I want to mention that the tipping point for us, it's been several, but and we're the kid off the block, the new kid. We've been here for about a year already. But the tipping point for us was when, the beauty is when you see the grandmother, the mother, and the child coming to a workshop, and now you're connecting the dots, because now you're connecting to the community. And along that is that you have limited resources. Now you're talking about not only the Kresge Foundation, but the SARE operation in Houston, Texas, and also which is part of the United Way. Then you have other CBOs that are connected to the planning. Then you have inside staff that are talking about financial aid, job development. And so right there, you're connecting. It's that relationship that is so important to the college that at that point you feel like you have achieved and established at least 50% of your job, and the other is to get them to stay, either complete or transfer, and if not, job placement also. The second one is, now that I've participated here today, and if our bond election, if we win our bond election on November the 6th, I know where I'm going with this, the community working families. All right, that's on my plan the following day.
Thank you. And I want to offer just a couple of other, probably just very pragmatic ideas around sustainability, building out the program and sustainability. And first of all, you have to make the program take root in the institution. And what I mean by that is all of you who are involved in the programs at your institution in one way or the other, whether it's through conversation, whether it's because somebody reports to you that's involved in the program, or whether it's because you sign off the budget but you're not really in the operations of it, whatever it might be, anybody that remotely touches the program needs to make sure that wherever they are in the institution that they take the program with them. So for an example, if you're on the strategic planning committee, make sure that program is incorporated in the strategic planning conversation. Make sure it gets into the strategic planning document. If you're on the facilities master planning committee, then make sure it gets into the facilities master planning process. So while we were doing all this construction and building this stuff, I made sure that every time we had a conversation about the overall educational facilities master plan for this entire district, that it incorporated in it the Center for Working Families model, which is the Spark Point Center. Okay? If you are on the budget committee, make sure it's incorporated in those conversations. If you are on the curriculum committee, make sure it's incorporated in those conversations. You heard earlier where Stephen mentioned that it's part of the, I think what Stephen mentioned is part of the developmental ed program, for developmental English and freshman level English. That's a curriculum committee conversation. So wherever you are, incorporate it in the institution throughout so that it starts to take root in the institution, and it doesn't become kind of this little program over on the side, but it actually has branches that reach out into the institution, included in the conversations around your staffing plans, included in your matriculation plan, included in your VITIA, your what do you call it, the vocational education act plan, the Perkins, yeah, it's included in those types of things. The other thing is every time your college writes a grant to serve students in any way, it is likely that the Center for Working Families at your institution can have a significant role in that student's success. Incorporate it in those grants so that the students that are being served by the grants are able to access services. And what you will find is that after a while, there's so much cross connection of your center with your institution that it really is just another part of the integrated instruction and services that you have at the institution. So that's really important to make sure you get it in there. I put it in, I introduce it into every conversation I have the opportunity to do so. And at the various levels of my responsibility, because when I first got involved with this, I was the Vice President of Instruction. And that's a really important part. I know that the presidents are really important people at their institutions. They are people of influence and they can really make things happen. But if you really want to know who runs those institutions, it's those vice presidents of instruction and student services. Okay? That's those people.
That was the other dirty little secret.
And the administrative assistants, that's right. And so those are the people that are the operations people. Those are the people that really are people of influence in terms of the mobilization of resources, but also in terms of shifting the conversations and shaping the direction of the institution. So it is really important for you to have the vice presidents of instruction and student services really engaged in this conversation. And actually, when we did it here at Skyline, I was the Vice President of Instruction. I wrote a grant called Strengthening Student Services. I was partnering with the Vice President of Student Services, but I was trying to figure out how not to step on her toes. And she was like, "Go on, Regina, do your thing." So we actually worked very, very well together. And for a long time, our center was under the direction of the Vice President of Instruction. And then we moved it over into student services because what we found is that we really needed to have it integrated. Not just, we were so busy trying to integrate instruction and student services that we didn't have it integrated with student services itself. And when we made that move, then, things, pieces just seemed to click in. William started acting better. I want to say is that you really have to promote this. You have to toot the horn every once in a while. I mean, you have to, you know, go through the trouble to put the image out there, to create the brochures, to create the presence on the institution. Every week I publish a newsletter to the campus called Skyline Shines, just in case people want to make thug jokes. Okay? Every week. And Skyline Shines is about all the great things that are going on at Skyline College. There is not a week since I have been president that I have not gotten an article from the Spark Point Center to put into Skyline Shines. If I don't have anything else in Skyline Shines, I could have one article. Guess what it's going to be? Spark Point. Because they will send me pictures. Spark Point Center went to a meeting today. Picture here, Adolfo Lebo, I mean, this college knows Spark Point if it doesn't know anything else on the institution. It knows Spark Point. So it really is about promoting, and what we found is that the faculty particularly were so glad to know about the kinds of services that were available, because they were saying things like, I have a student and he slept in his car because he aged out of the system last night, and so therefore, you know, he's homeless, and they didn't know where to send him, and you know. And this is the San Francisco Bay Area, you know, so the community-based organizations work real hard to try to find home situations, but the reality is it's not like you just go into the office and then tonight you got a place to stay, you know. So it's really, really important for the faculty to have an idea of, you know, how to be able to provide these services to students, or at least who they can call and send them to. I'm getting ready to say, lady, choking, falling down on the diets and everything. And I'm going on and on about Spark Point. So you see what I'm talking about? That's how you sustain the program. So we just make sure everything's all right. I'm going to go to this. I'm going to go to this last question, which happened to be one of your questions, Irene, but we'll move on. Okay, enough about me. Let's go back to the president here. What policy issues affect implementation of the Center for Working Families approach at your institution, and who do you work with to influence the change in these policies? And we're going to ask David and Irene to speak.
Yeah, I mean, a number of things. I mean, one of the things about the Center for Working Families, which I think is really important, is really the overall philosophical model of how to ensure student success. And, you know, I think one of the challenges we have at our college that we've moved considerably is that even though our students are not traditional age, right out of high school graduates, that is still the model that many people have in mind. The problem is the way we're set up administratively, the way we're set up organizationally, it's as if you're dealing with 18 to 20-year-old college students who don't have families or who are not single parents, etc. So I think one of the challenges, and this is again where it's worked so well, is really changing that mindset. Again, we have data galore. We can show that this has not been in the college for many, many years. But it's really the symbolic aspects that I think really change people's minds. And, you know, just point to Christina Tisabuzzi. Christina has organized a trunk and treat each Halloween. And it may sound like nothing, but to see all these kids and families gathered for Halloween, it makes it a family event. You can't go through the college without seeing it. So I think one of the challenges is that. Another challenge we have, and again, we try to downsell initiatives, is whether, you know, or as someone once said to me, well, I have initiative fatigue. That you're doing all these things, and in some ways we've been in Achieving the Dream College, we were a developmental education initiative college, we received from the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching a community engaged institution designation, and we've always been reticent to really boast about those things. In fact, I see Carol Lincoln's in the back. Every time I got my Achieving the Dream evaluation, the one thing it said, how come you guys don't publicize it more? Why don't you have the ATD banner, on top of your homepage? And quite honestly, we consciously didn't do those things because, in part, because we know the culture of our institution. We're in the New York metro area, so we have a very New York cynical crowd, especially given what happened with the Yankees this year. And also, we're part Connecticut, right? And Connecticut used to be known as the land of steady habits, right? And it's a state that has 169 different communities, a small little state of a little over 3 million, 148 different school districts. So, you're working in this kind of really odd cultural context. And also one that has 8 unions, right? 2 different faculty unions, and I can go on and on and on. So I think, a lot of it is again, it goes back to the discussion you've been having this afternoon. It's integrating it into the values and mission of the college, right? I mean, we have a very clear mission statement, a very clear set of core values. Our strategic plan is based upon that. That's how we've wrapped in all of our data gathering, which again, left on its own, I think a lot of people will say to me, why did you hire a Dean of Institutional Effectiveness when we need 2 more remedial math instructors? But I think if you integrate it, it becomes less of a challenge. But, granted, one of the things we're all facing is, dwindling resources, greater student needs, and there are these struggles. So again, one of the things that we're just trying to do is try to do the soft sell, integrate in what we're doing because we are doing a case management approach in various different areas. We're doing a lot of work with e-portfolios. We're doing a lot of things that the mosaic equals the totality of what we want. And the way we sell it institutionally is not to wave those banners and not to beat people over the heads with initiatives because that's going to bring out resistance, maybe even votes of no confidence.
So you do have to kind of, I think it's really smart for you to really look at the issue around the culture of your institution and kind of make that judgment. This institution happens to be a very celebratory institution. I mean, we party just about over anything, So you have to make it fit. And Irene, did you want to add anything to that? Can you breathe now? I'm so sorry.
I had a wine break. No, I didn't. Now, one of the greatest challenges in terms of policy for us is that because we have 6 colleges and each president, practices have maybe priorities on certain outcomes, that we have to really work together as the 6 colleges. And we're so spread out throughout the city of Houston that, you go from one end point of the east end side of Houston all the way to the west side and north and south, that it takes, a long draw here to get to the circle. And so how do you get all the presidents to come together? And so we then have to look at some of the measurements here on the indicators. And so the measurement is about, outcomes on completion rates. And if we have something in common, in this case, it's going to be dual credit. And if that's a commonality for us, because that's a common base, the parents and the dual credit, then we can work on this together. Versus, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So there is then that togetherness that comes through working with the 6 presidents, because many of the presidents, as well as myself, we've been there, we're in institutions, we've been there for 20, 25, 30 years or so. So how do you get the mindset? And how do you get everyone to have this buy-in to move together to this plan? And it can be done if today, we said 3 colleges are here today. Last year there was 1, today there's 2 more, that's 3 are right there. And then also when they heard through the board meeting that we were coming over here to be part of this plan, then it's almost like the college presidents that have not been really participating to the fullest turned around and said, how come you get to go and we don't get to go? So that's how it works sometimes. But you have to work at it. You have to really believe in what you're doing and you have to commit, and this is where I think is so critical.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Kathy?
I think the one thing that truly bothers individuals at our institutions is when our rhetoric and our policies are not consistent. So I believe that, you're hearing all of us, we're almost preacher-like when we're talking about this because it's so much a part of what we believe a community college should do. And what I have found is that people in the organization are mostly bothered when your rhetoric does not match the policies of the institution. So I believe that policy changes that align you better with what you're talking about. And because what you're talking about is really helping students, that the policy changes are absolutely necessary, and you can't hide away from it, and you've got to have the courage to make sure that your policies align with your rhetoric.
And I'm going to build on that. And we have grown at our institution 1,000% since 1992, and we go very, very fast at our institution. And I think the thing that we all have to remember as educators is taking that moment for a breath and look at your policies and say, why not? And if you review your policies and they aren't working, then you have the courage to say, all right, why aren't they working? And make that change. And make them substantial enough so they are not the flavor of the month, but they become the culture of your institution and your people. And I think the more, and I'm getting choked up here, but the more we do that, the more we do that, the more our institutions become, and this sounds corny, but it's true, a family. And you look, here's my mother, she's 88 years old, she's coming out in me. You look at our students and why they come to our institutions. They're coming for an education, but they're coming for that face-to-face time, whether it's in a center or whether it's every place in our institutions, for that family. And it is our obligation, ladies and gentlemen, to provide that environment for them to thrive. And if our policies aren't working, then it's time in 2012 to change them.
Stephen, did you want to add to that?
Yes, I do. Thank you. It's always tough following Margaret, though. But when you are looking at your policies, and I would really recommend that you do, and you ask why not, you may also ask why. I'm sure all of us have the Jimmy Smith policy and the Susie Jones policy, the policies that were created because somebody did something and that wasn't good, so then we have to make a policy about that so that it never happens again. So you do want to, kind of make sure that as you're going through those, that you kind of question, why is this a policy? And see if you can get rid of it, particularly if it's impeding the progress of our students. Why are we here? It is for our students. And I would throw out a caution, or that when you do something like College of the Ouachitas has done, which we've moved our progression and completion rate from about 26% to 52% in the last 4 or 5 years. Realize that you are working with a pipeline. And if you start to remove those barriers and you actually get people through, if you aren't feeding the pipeline at the front end, which you haven't been worried about because you have people taking 5, 6 years to complete, you will actually not see an enrollment increase. You'll see an enrollment decrease. So you do have to kind of keep that in mind as you're all going to be as successful as we are, because you're going to go back and you're going to be able to see that these things are doable and they're possible, and that you make the difference when you talk to that student. Now you get to go back and be change agents at your institutions, so that it's not just that student, but it's all students. It's everyone, and it's your community as well. And that's when you get to make that next step towards truly making this, as Margaret said, a part of the culture.
So, one of the things is that many of you spoke to the policies in your institutions. There are also external policies that sometimes will affect your ability to really implement this type of a program. And I can name a couple of them, and I don't necessarily have the solutions. I know different people have figured out different workarounds, but for an example, there's the data sharing, how much of student information can you share? So between FERPA and trying to share data because you're part of an overall initiative, you might run into some issues around that. There's policies around the workforce development policies and the ways in which workforce development money is spent. So whether people are WIA eligible or not, and so you end up with being able to provide services or not provide services to two different individuals that are in the same spot. Because one is WIA eligible and one is not WIA eligible. There are policies that are around, for example, supplemental nutrition and food stamps, or the new SNAP program, and so those types of policies we have to be alert to, not only our internal institutional conversations, but the external policy conversations that are going on, sometimes in our region, sometimes in our local areas, sometimes in our state, and then of course in our nation.
So our governor often talks about how higher education is gaming the system, and it's not a positive thing. And since you're family, I'm telling you this. And my response to that comment is one of the things that I really take with great pride is that I always say, yes, I am, and that's what I'm hired for.
Okay. So, does that mean I have 10 minutes, or does that mean no? Okay. So I just want to take the last few minutes to ask anybody in the audience if they have any questions that they want to ask of this esteemed dais here. Yes, Amy.
I just want to thank all of you for giving us such wonderful insight. That's my comment.
Me.
I would like to recommend to the panel that they have a radio show.
Joy's over there writing notes. Okay. Take Chris off the list.
I just have a question. There's a camera here. Has this been recorded so it can be viewed at future?
Last November, I'll make two comments. Last November, Time Magazine ran a multi-page story on opportunity, and talked about opportunity and talked about the best predictor of success for most people is the zip code where they were born. And there is now a national movement called Opportunity Nation. You can Google it. On Opportunity Nation's website, they have an opportunity index that drills down all through the nation by county. And you can look at your county and see how it is graded against every other county in your state or in the nation on how well it provides opportunity for the persons that have come out of it. And it is challenging all of us, businesses and otherwise, to do what we can to change that formula, to rise or raise the opportunity level for everyone, everywhere. And most of the clients that we deal with and have talked about come out of those zip codes that have not done so well. So it is an organizing strategy. You can organize groups around it. We've got all the major players in central Iowa coming around the Opportunity Index to say, okay, we're gonna bump these scores up. The second thing, and talking about sustainability and survivability of this program, I hope each and every one of you in your career plan have not ruled out being the president of your institution. And the only way we can sustain and grow this movement is when, as we move on or move away, that someone moves in feeling as passionate about this as we do. So if you don't have your master's, get it. If you don't have your PhD, get it. Because there are great opportunities in community college work nationally. And you've got to have the ticket, you've got to have the opportunity, you've got to have a plan. And we need you. We all need you. Well, forget that. Our students need you to come in and to push this even further.
Other questions? Yes.
I thought about following up the first comment, which was thanking you for sharing your wisdom, kind of paraphrase what you said. But I also want that to be committed. Because without you being champion of programs of your various institutions, happen as easily.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. Are there any other questions? Okay, I think we have kind of wrung every bit of the energy out of you. I just want to first take a moment to thank my colleagues here on the dais. And then also, Colin, you may want to have some final comments to address the group, but before I sit down from the podium, I just want to thank all of you for being guests here at the college. I know you're going to be here another day at the Embassy Suites, and I hope they take care of you as well as we've taken care of you here. And I want to just say that, you know, this doesn't happen by magic. It happens because a lot of dedicated people spend a lot of time to make it pretty for you as well. So I really want to give my thanks and give a hand to William Watson, Adolfo Oliva, Julie Hamilton, and the staff in the Vice President of Student Services Office as well, and Dr. Joy Blake. So on behalf of this whole college, I just can't tell you how immensely proud I am to be able to stand here today and host you for this meeting.
Sure, that's fine. You all can go. Just to wrap things up. Wow, I mean, how often do you get to hear 9 presidents speak openly and honestly? And so we're so grateful. It's been a terrific day. So many people from Skyline College have made this a great home for us today. So what we have next is going to be a special dinner at 6:30. It's going to be right here in this room. And we'd like to invite all of